Hello and welcome to match day 12 of Championship predictions from the Unsporting Podcast. I'm Craig Savage and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. We are back from the international break, but let's have a quick recap of what happened before that. So 4 perfect scores overall, 3 in my favour. That was for Barnsley v Millwall, Blackpool versus Blackburn, and Cardiff versus Reading. Daniel Cody also got a perfect score in Bournemouth versus Sheffield United. So overall, I win match day 11 with 12 points to Daniel Cody's 6. Let's hope for another repeat of perfect scores in match day 12. And we start off with the first of 3 derbies. It is West Bromwich Albion versus Birmingham City on Friday night. West Brom's first defeat last game against Stoke City. It wasn't really great, to be honest, West Brom.
No, they were fortunate, to be honest, because the strange own goal that got disallowed was, let's say, a very soft decision. To be polite, I would say it was ridiculous. But West Brom thoroughly deserved to lose. And to be fair, they've been efficient for most of the season, but they haven't always been blockbuster. They haven't been flamboyant. They haven't had many games where they've gone and won handsomely. So I can see why that would happen occasionally. And I'm a little bit worried about this game, to be honest, because I know Birmingham got battered at home to Nottingham Forest. And I know that after a good start on the road, like they usually have, they have dropped off a little bit. But it could have been different for Birmingham against Forest. They had more of the chances. Before Forest got the first, I think it was, they hit the post with a Talif Shong shot across goal, which was brilliant. So the signs are there that Birmingham performed a little better. Of course, they've got to cut out the defensive errors or West Brom will take advantage. But with their big back three, I'd fancy them to deal with the long throws a bit better. And I think this could be a slightly surprising game. Friday night under the lights normally brings a bit of drama. I'm tempted to go for a Birmingham win, but I think I might stick with a draw. No, 2-1 Birmingham.
I think this would be a good game, to be honest. Friday night under lights, Hawthorns on Sky once again. I think every West Brom game seems to be on a Friday night. Yeah, West Brom were poor against Stoke. Stoke probably should have had 2 or 3. They missed a penalty as well with Stoke. So obviously the result was the right one, in my opinion. Birmingham, inconsistent Birmingham again. And obviously they were really run high from that 5-0 at Kenilworth Road to a 3-0 drive against Nottingham Forest, who has seen a bit of a resurgence under the new manager. But I think this will be a good game under lights. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Derby number 2 on early Saturday. It is Fulham versus Queen's Park Rangers at Craven Cottage. Fulham, very surprising result against Coventry.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all talked about it before that weekend. We knew Coventry were going to bounce back performance-wise from their one, but the way Fulham gifted them goals in the second half was pretty scandalous from a team that wants to be pushing for promotion. And we've seen this through Fulham throughout this season. You've got 1 or 2 excellent performances and then just the odd little blip in the road. This one, the most catastrophic defensively, but again, didn't look a huge threat going forward, didn't give Mitrovic a huge amount of service and thoroughly deserved to lose. QPR, it was just a classic QPR game. They gave away 2 sloppy, silly goals that were avoidable. They were fluent and brilliant on the counter-attack going forward. And they've got such an attacking threat that you fancy them to go on a scoring spree against anyone. I think this game will be a classic. I hope it doesn't become one of those cagey derbies. I hope there's not an early red card because it could spoil it. But if there isn't, I think it could be an absolute barnstormer. And I'm starting crazy this weekend. I'm going 3-3.
I think it'll be 1-1. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot tight. I think Marco Silva, after conceding 4 goals against Coventry 2 weeks ago, we really would probably want a sharp shot against QPR side that do express themselves when they go forward. Obviously got the front power, Andre Gray, Willett, Charlie Austin, Ilias Chair as well. So I think that for QPR will probably want to go for it. I think Fulham might want to be a bit more defensive in this one. And that's why I think it'd be a 1-1 draw. I think if they have that collapse like they did against Coventry, it could be a spectacular collapse. But I think they'll try and be more solid. I'm going to go for 1-1. Next up at Ewood Park, it is Blackburn Rovers versus Coventry City. Typical Blackburn, start a good run and then they lose. Coventry, the perfect response from that 5-0 defeat at Luton.
Yeah, and for whatever we've said about Coventry on the road this season, they always turn up at home. They're the only invincible side in the league at home. They've won every single game, got every point they possibly could. Away from home, though, their last game was a 5-0 defeat, and we have got to bear that in mind. They're coming up against a Blackburn side who have been very good at home, much the opposite this season to what we usually expect. They got 3 wins out of 5, 10 points. They've scored loads of goals. In fact, behind Coventry and Bournemouth, they're the 3rd highest scorers at home this year. So it's another game that promises goals. Most of the weekends in the Championship this season, we've seen goals galore. I know Blackburn lost to Blackpool, but they did have more chances. They just weren't ruthless on the day. Both sides have got an error in them defensively. I don't want to go for 3 ridiculous scores in a row, but I don't think I've got a choice. I'm going for 3-2 to Blackburn.
I was going to go the opposite way. This is a weird one because Blackburn, when they at home, Blackburn are not too bad. They're pretty good. I have to give Coventry a lot of credit because I was quite worried once they conceded early against Fulham. I thought, oh, this could be another collapse here again. But to their credit, they really bounced back really well in the second half. 3-2. You went. I don't know. Actually, this could really be a bogey game. Could go either way. I'm going to go 2 on Coventry. I'm going to go Coventry. Right, next up, Ashton Gate. Bristol City versus Bournemouth. Bristol City, very good away win last week, 2 weeks ago. Bournemouth, typical win against Sheffield United. But, Daniel Cody, Bristol City are at home.
Yes, and Bristol City at home are a problem. They're almost a guaranteed draw every time they're at home, 4 out of 5 so far this season. But they're up against a Bournemouth side who largely have been brilliant this year. I've said that for me, they've been one of the most consistently good teams in the Championship. They've got the 3rd best record on the road. It will be the best one if they win this weekend. It's so hard to look past Bournemouth, even though Bristol City is solid defensively. They did let in a silly goal against Peterborough, albeit the other one was a screamer from Schmodic, they wouldn't have been able to do much about. But they took advantage of poor defending from Peterborough. I don't think it'll be enough in this game, though. I'm going to go for Bournemouth to edge it 2-1 and just calm the score down a little bit now.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Bournemouth. I think unbeaten still, the only team unbeaten left in the league. I worry with Bristol City because I think if Bournemouth score early, it could be more than what I'm going to predict. But I don't know where Bristol City are going to find that home win. But this is a typical Championship. They have been so poor at home, and then Bournemouth comes to town, and Bristol City will probably ruin Bournemouth's unbeaten run. But I'm going to go for Bristol City 0, Bournemouth 2. Right, next up, it is Huddersfield Town versus Hull City. Huddersfield was 0-0 at Luton. You went to watch that in the rain. Hull, first win since the opening day.
Yeah, and it was a resilient performance. I don't want to say it was an exciting one because Middlesbrough did have the better of the game still. However, we haven't seen for a long time Hull holding out defensively and actually defending the box well. I know Middlesbrough's game plan perhaps suited them slightly better, but they took advantage. They got late goals. I would hasten to add that bar a slight error at the back for Middlesbrough, it might have remained 0-0, but that's ifs and buts. They got the victory. They've got 2 games in a row unbeaten. 2 games in a row they've scored, which is the first time that's happened all season. They're playing against the Huddersfield side, though, who have been okay at home this season. 3 wins and 2 defeats. It's definitely not going to be a draw, but they've done very well against the sides expected to be in the bottom half. And that's what Huddersfield's bread and butter is. They seem to have taken advantage. They were defensively very solid against Luton for the most part. Had the odd long-range shot and set piece, but didn't really come to score. But played really well, got a good point. And I think they're going to have 3 more this weekend. Hull's form will go this week, and it's going to be, I think, comfortable. 2-0 Huddersfield.
I don't expect many goals in this game, to be honest. I think it'll be one, probably a set piece might do it for Huddersfield. I'm going to go 1-0 to them. Right, next up is the team that Hull beat. It's Middlesbrough. They're at home to Peterborough. Obviously, Middlesbrough, another defeat for them, sitting in 15th. It's not really looking pretty.
No, it's not. But the positive is their last home game, they were very solid against Sheffield United. And Peterborough, at home to Peterborough is the game every team wants to find form, because Peterborough away from home, we've talked about it, they're going to get so few points this season. They're chalk and cheese home and away. I think Middlesbrough are going to win this comfortably purely because the opposition isn't there. I think Johnson Clark-Harris has started his ban now, hadn't he? So they're reliant on midfield goal scorers. We saw Schmodic put a brilliant goal in against Bristol City, scored a good header as well, but they haven't got that overall attacking threat. They're unfortunate to have virtually their whole strike force out at once, but still, that means they're not going to get anything out of this one. I'm going to go same score again. Same as the last game, 2-0 Middlesbrough.
I'm going to go 3-1 Middlesbrough. I think this is probably, in all due respect to Peterborough, is probably the perfect fixture for Middlesbrough. Start picking up points again, get that confidence back. I think the 2 weeks might have helped Neil Warnock, get back in the training ground, see what's gone wrong, and then hopefully get into this group of fixtures with the 3 points. I think they might do it this weekend. 3-1 to Borough. Next up, the New Den, as somehow a 3 o'clock kickoff. It is Millwall versus Luton Town. Both these two teams sitting in mid-table, 11th and 13th respectively. Both teams looking pretty solid, actually.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? 2 clean sheets in a row for both sides. It's not something we've generally associated with Luton in the Championship over the years, but I will say that both sides probably look the most solid they have for a long time. Millwall have certainly tightened up from when I went to watch them earlier in the season. Like you, I'm amazed that there's a Millwall-Luton game that isn't on TV, but still, I think Millwall will probably just have too much because at home, generally, they've got good results against Luton in recent years. The goals always seem to come the same way, with Matt Smith guiding in a header at the back post. And depending on which side of the centre halves he peels off on, he might well have that opportunity again. So I'm going to back Millwall to make it 3 back-to-back 1-0 wins. And I hope I'm wrong, because obviously I'd like Luton to get a result.
Both these two teams are quite high on draws. Millwall 6, Luton 5. I could see it being Millwall 7, Luton 6. I think 1-1 is the score line. I don't expect it to be pretty. I think Luton will, start well, but I think the odd set piece Millwall might be slightly stronger. Obviously, Luton's players are coming back, so that's my little worry as a Luton fan. From a neutral, I think 1-1 is clearly the right result. Right, next up, Nottingham Forest versus Blackpool at the City Ground. Steve Cooper, what a wonderful start.
He has. He's had the perfect new manager bounce, and away from home, they've been scintillating in his first 2 away games. The problem is, at home, they haven't yet won a game this season. They only picked up a point, which, fair enough, was Steve Cooper's first game. But I don't know that that's enough to inspire me. Blackpool, on the other side of that, have been very solid on the road. 3 draws, 1 win, 1 defeat. And I've been so impressed with them. I mean, we deserve to do a feature-length special on them, really, for what they've achieved compared to where everyone was putting them at the start of the season. They look really good on the counter-attack with fluent attacking players, plenty of pace, plenty of players running the channels. And I just think this is going to be the game where the new manager bounce stops. So I'm going to go for a draw because Forest haven't won a home game. Blackpool have drawn most of their away games. I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline for the first time today.
I could probably see another win for Forest. Oh, actually, do I see another win for Forest? Draw seems right. That's the annoying thing about this. The draw seems right because Blackpool, to their credit, have been pretty good and they're taking their chances. Not having many chances, but they're taking their chances. Forest, on the other hand, this is what annoys me with players because they couldn't hit a barn door. And I was going to say something else, but I won't. But they just, and how they're scoring goals for fun, and it's really bugging me. And why can they do it under Chris Hughton? So maybe they just found that confidence in themselves, and they couldn't. It baffles me. It really baffles me. 2-1 Forest. Next up, Deepdale, it is Preston versus Derby. Derby obviously still bottom of the table, but joint fewest goals conceded. So with an whole back line of, with due respect, Phil Jagielka and Curtis Davis, massive praise.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And to be honest, at this stage of the season, for most of them who are now well past international years, having 2 weeks break is a lovely thing now and again because it allows Wayne Rooney to keep working with them on the training ground. But more importantly, these players, they know how to perform. They know how to get up for the big game. They just need rest occasionally. So it's going to be a big 3 games in a week for Derby. But this one, against the Preston side, who I know scored 2 against QPR, but otherwise haven't scored huge amounts of goals this season. They are better at home so far. They've managed to pick up some results at home. They couldn't cope with QPR on the counter-attack, albeit that's a threat that Derby haven't got. Defensively, they do look a bit suspect, though. I think I'm between 0-0 and 1-0. I'm certain it's going to be a draw. Do you know what? I'm going to go goalless. And if we're out after 10 minutes, we're out.
I don't expect many goals either, to be honest. I'm going to go 1-0 to Derby. I think it's one of those games where it's not going to be one of those that's going to be on quest quite early. But I think Derby will score 1. I think it'll probably be late on, to be honest. So I think Derby will win this one 1-0. Right, next up, it is Reading versus Barnsley. Barnsley's form is atrocious. They've fallen into the bottom 3.
Yeah, and another side that haven't won on the road yet this season. You can almost bank on them not to win. Reading, on the other hand, are finding form, aren't they? 4 wins out of 5 now. Back-to-back home wins. they're not conceding many goals. They're starting to get players back. They've obviously got this little cloud about the potential EFL charges hanging over their head, but they're doing the job on the pitch. And actually, it should be said that Danny Drinkwater's had a massive influence in that side. I know he's had some troubles the last couple of years, but he's been really involved in everything that's happened, been a solid rock in the defensive area, and sort of played in a slightly deeper role than we were used to seeing him before. Barnsley, I've talked to death about Marcus Schopp and my opinion on what's going to happen. I don't see any turnaround here. It's whether we stick with the 1-0, which would make sense on the recent results, or we go bigger. And I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Reading.
I'm going to go 2-0 Reading. I think if they would have sacked Marcus Schopp, they would have probably done it in this break. But the fact that they hired other people during this coaching staff in this break means that he's not going anywhere. But I think Reading will win this one. Reading have actually been really good lately. We criticised them early on, seen a load of goals, but they've really sharp shot. 2-0 Reading. It's probably a banker, but it's not a banker because it's the Championship. Right, last game on Saturday. It is Sheffield United versus Stoke, and this could be probably the game of the day.
It could be, but it could also be 0-0. That's the problem with this game. Sheffield United looked like they were finally turning a corner. They were starting to score goals. And not only have they not scored regularly in the last couple of games, they've not looked like scoring a huge amount of the time. Ironically, the game they were best going forward was against Middlesbrough, where they didn't score. Stoke have been really good all season, but they're another one of those sides, I'm afraid, who are very different at home to away from home. And it doesn't look favourably on the road. So I think I'm going to play safe. I do think one of the sides will win this, but I have no idea who. So I'm just going to have to play safe and sit in the middle. Unlike you, I don't think this is going to be the goals galore one. I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline.
I don't know. You think there'll be a winner, but then you went 1-1.
I have no idea who, so I couldn't do it.
Sheffield United won to bounce back because they lost the last two now, Sheffield United. Stoke looked really good against West Brom, but away from home, they did lose to Derby the other week. So I can't decide either. So I'm going to go 2-2 as well. This is a week I'm actually struggling. I think if there's no international break, predictions would be a lot easier, but this is the Championship. Right, final game on Sunday. It's the third derby. It's the Welsh derby. It is Swansea versus Cardiff, 19th versus 20th. My worry, if Cardiff lose this game, I think this could be the end for Mick McCarthy.
Potentially, but I mean, we were talking a little bit about it before we went live here. I have no idea, and neither will anyone who looked at the stats or the highlights be able to tell us how Cardiff not only lost against Reading, but didn't win. 27 shots to 2, 5 on target to 1, 12 shots blocked, which tells you about Reading defensively. Had the only up to clear-cut chance. Corners galore, set pieces galore. Just did not take advantage. The strikers are all out of form at the same time. We have to hope. We mentioned Kiefer Moore's 1-yard tapping off camera beforehand. Will that make a difference at the weekend? You have to hope so for Cardiff, because if they can get scoring, they'll go on a run. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. They needed to be more solid defensively after the West Brom and Blackburn performances. They did that. And they're against the Swansea side that, let's be honest, aren't in great form. They have the odd game where they look like they're going to score. They have plenty of games where they concede plenty and then keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to be surprising here. Everyone thinks this game is probably going to be low scoring and maybe the end of Mick McCarthy. I think this is the day it clicks. I keep predicting Cardiff till they win. They're going to win 3-1. 6
defeats in a row now for Cardiff. I don't know. This is the thing is, form goes out the window, especially this kind of derby as well. It's going to be obviously hostile. Fans are back in, and this sort of derby that's going to make a hell of a difference. Cardiff cannot afford to lose this game, in my opinion. I think Cardiff are going to sneak it, and they're not going to be spectacular. I think they're going to have the one chance, and they're going to take it, and it'll be a defender scoring it as well. It won't be Moore or Collins, in my opinion. I'm going to go 1-0 to Cardiff. Let's have a quick recap on what we just predicted in match day 12. Goals galore, but 6 draws in there as well.
We're going to get so many pelters for these.
So many pelters and draws. A 3-3 draw in Fulham versus QPR for Cody. 2-2 Sheffield United Stoke for myself, and West Brom and v Birmingham. And those are predictions for match day 12. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. And give us your predictions for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. And we'll see you next time.